Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Hellmouth Hotline. And I just realised I'm chewing a piece of chewing gum here, which is going to be very off-putting for you, so I'm going to go and get rid of that now before we get into the bulk of this episode. So guys, we're back with a new episode of Hellmouth Hotline. We're doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this one once more. It is Season 2, Episode 8, called The Dark Age. And as we noticed in a couple of episodes back, we got a little look at like a darker side of Giles, and through the character Ethan Rain, who owned the Halloween costume shop that caused all the trouble. Yes, whenever everything that he was selling, the people actually turned on whatever they were wearing. So we knew there was a history between Giles and him, and we discover that history in this episode. And at the beginning of it, there's a man making his way across the school grounds. He's trying to find Giles, and he comes across one of the workers at the school, asks where Rupert Giles is at, and the guy directs him towards the library. But before he can get there, he's approached by a decomposing woman who he recognises and calls her by her name, Deirdre. The corpse strangles him, and then it falls to the ground. It kills him, and it falls to the ground beside him and turns into like this pool of slime. And the episode opens at this point. Giles tells Buffy the next day she's training, and he says later that night he wants her to meet him at the hospital, where there's going to be a blood delivery, which attracts vampires, obviously. And just a simple smash and grab instead of having to try and kill people. You've got blood deliveries going to a hospital. They'll go after anything. When Giles gets back to his library, a detective is waiting for him, who informs Giles that there was a homicide on the campus and the dead man had Giles' name and address on him. Giles is then taken to the morgue, where he identifies the body of an old friend from London, Philip Henry. The body has a tattoo which Giles claims he does not recognise. Shaken from what he's realised, Giles does not meet Buffy at the hospital, and she ends up battling a doctor dressed as a vampire alone until Angel shows up. She goes to check on Giles, who looks, a little bit worse for wear. It turns out he's also got a tattoo, the same as the guy that got killed at the start of the episode, and she realises that he has been drinking. Giles calls another friend in London and finds out that Deirdre is dead too, obviously the woman at the start that killed Philip Henry. As he rolls up his sleeves, we see the same tattoo, and I've already covered that. Meanwhile, Philip comes back to life in the morgue, his eyes flashing, and he escapes. On the Saturday, Cordelia finally tells Buffy about the homicide detective visit in the library. Buffy finds Giles' former friend Ethan, the costume shop owner who had caused chaos on Halloween. As she calls Giles, Ethan mentions the mark of Aegon. Giles says she's in danger and get out of the library, but before, she doesn't want to go anywhere. She's like, I'm not going anywhere. You've just been lying to me, come here, get this sorted out. She's got Ethan come to the library, but before she can do anything, the dead Philip enters. Giles hears this on the phone. He panics, runs from his house and shows up. After a scuffle which leaves Jenny unconscious, Buffy has managed to get the dead Philip into, in the library. Giles has this like cage set up where he keeps all the weapons and stuff, and it's always been weird to me when I'm watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because Buffy's the Slayer, Giles is her watcher, and they're working undercover. Nobody's supposed to know who they are, sort of a deal. But if you walk into the library, which is Anybody in the school can walk in there at any time of the day or night, and you've got a cage set up in the corner full of weapons. Never questioned, but it is what it is. Television, guys. It's awesome. So Buffy has Philip in this cage. Giles turns up. Miss Calendar and all's there too. She's a huge part of this episode. She was there taking a computer course on the Saturday, which means, Cordelia and Willow and Xander all had got mixed up in all their names there. We're all on a Saturday to make up credit on a computer course. There's a scuffle, and the dead guy Philip breaks out of the cage, and Jenny gets up to the door, gets knocked unconscious, and before Buffy and the rest of them can fight Philip again, he falls down, dissolves. The demon can only inhabit the body for so long before the body just basically disintegrates. But nobody notices that the slime puddle that the body turns into seeps across the floor and touches Jenny's hand, and she twitches. When Jenny comes to, she seems normal, but her eyes flash. Willow discovers the mark of Aegon in a book. The demon Aegon has the ability to possess the body of the dead or an unconscious host. They figure out that the demon has jumped from Philip's body to Miss Calendar's body. Possessed, Jenny, Miss Calendar, tries to seduce Giles at his apartment. When Buffy comes to the rescue, Jenny jumps out the window, and Giles explains to Buffy that he ran with a bad crowd when he was young, and they used the demon to get a temporary high. Back in the day, whenever he was a kid, 60s, 70s time, they were all running after the hippie culture, and this was the next step up, and they were all into demonology, and they called it Aegon. And one person would get into a deep sleep, the other people there would call the demon, and it would be a huge high for the guy that was sleeping. And they were all doing this, directing the demon in and out of each other's bodies. But one friend died, then Deirdre, and now it seems the rest of the group is being killed off. One of the friends was killed back in the day whenever they were all student ages, and now years later the demon's coming back for everybody that has this tattoo on him, this mark of Aegon. Buffy goes to the deserted costume shop to try and defend Ethan against Aegon / Jenny. Ethan knocks her out, ties her up, and puts the mark of Aegon on her. He actually tattoos her, ties her up to this table, puts a tattoo of the mark of Aegon on her, and then he lifts a bottle of acid and pours it in his own arm to destroy the tattoo that he has, in the hopes that the demon will take Buffy and leave him alone, which is indeed the case when Jenny turns up. Jenny enters, completely demonic. Buffy breaks free, and next thing, Angel arrives out of nowhere, chokes Jenny until she loses consciousness. This is Willow's plan, by the way. She discovers that, when they discovered that when the demon feels threatened, it'll jump to the next dead host or somebody that's unconscious. So of course they get Angel in there. He's already dead, but the fact that he's a vampire with a soul means that he has a demon inside him. So when Miss Jenny Miss Calendar, Jenny, Miss Jenny, gosh almighty, Aegon moves to the nearest dead body, that of Angel. The two demons, the vampire within and Aegon, fight for control in Angel's body, and Aegon is destroyed. Jenny returns to normal, and Ethan escapes at the end of the episode. And the next day at school, Giles tries to approach Miss Calendar to check if she's okay. I tried to ring you last night, but there was no answer, and she was like, After everything that happened, I just needed a bit of time to myself and a bit of sleep, so I had my phone off the hook. And obviously, Giles' dark past is not landed too well with Miss Calendar, considering she was possessed and running the streets as a demon for goodness knows how long the previous night. So she's not interested in the slightest in being anywhere near Giles at the end of this episode. And he's like, at the end, he's talking to Buffy, and I don't think she will ever forgive me for this. And Buffy's like, well, maybe you can forgive yourself for it. You know, it's a great little episode. I love those ones where you get to see a little bit more of the characters' backgrounds and where they came from. And someone as straight-laced as Giles having a bit of a dark history they got there is definitely an interesting episode. So, well worth checking out. It's a great series. I'm so glad I started this podcast so I can just go back and relive these episodes again and enjoy them. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow for a little bit more on the Hammer collection. Stay safe, guys. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.